They told me it would make me stronger. That discipline would shape my life, that I'd carry pride on my back like a flag. They forgot to mention how heavy pride can be when it's soaked in silence. I was 19 when I signed up. The recruiter smiled when I said I wanted to serve my country. No one warned me about the weight of being the only woman in a room full of men who saw me as something to be tested. At first, I thought I could blend in. Same uniform, same boots, same sweat pooling beneath the desert heat. But there's no such thing as blending in when you're a woman in the military. Every step I took felt like it echoed louder, like I had to prove twice as much just to be seen as half as capable. I carried my rifle with care, marched in perfect rhythm, kept my locker sharp enough to reflect my face back at me. Still, the looks came. The comments. The quiet jokes whispered just out of earshot, except they weren't. I heard every single one. There's this thing they don't talk about, how isolation doesn't always mean being alone. You can be surrounded by people and still feel like a ghost. My bunkmates shared stories from home, laughed about girls they knew, bonded over beers and bruises. I stayed quiet. If I laughed too hard, I was trying too hard. If I kept to myself, I was called a bitch. There was no right way to exist in that space. I learned to float, just enough to survive, never enough to belong. PT was hell. Not because of the drills or the pain, but because of the stares. Eyes always scanning, as if waiting for me to break. And when I didn't, they'd say I must be sleeping with someone. Because strength, apparently, isn't something women are allowed to earn. They act like we're here for show. Like our sweat doesn't count. Like we're weak unless we're useful, and useful only means one thing to some of them. But you don't cry. You don't scream. You hold it in and count your breaths like you count your steps. 1, 2, 3, keep moving. That's what they taught me. Keep moving. Because the minute you stop, the minute you show weakness, they win. And I couldn't let them win. Not again. It got worse when I moved up in rank. Authority doesn't protect you, it isolates you even more. I wasn't just the only woman in the room, I was the woman they had to pretend to respect. The orders I gave were met with smirks, eye rolls, delays. Not openly, never enough to call it out. Just subtle, persistent erosion, like sand wearing down a stone. And every time I filed a report, it disappeared into some locked drawer that no one ever opened. There were nights I slept with one hand on my locker and the other gripping a flashlight, not because of the enemy outside, but because of the war inside the base. I stopped sleeping altogether after that one incident. I don't talk about it. None of us do. You learn fast that speaking up doesn't always mean being heard. It means being labeled. As dramatic. As trouble. As someone who can't handle it. I saw the guys get promoted, celebrated, posted in clean offices while I got shuffled around, given more hours, fewer thanks. My body started giving out, stress fractures, migraines, chronic fatigue. But I pushed through it. Because asking for time off was weakness. Because I'd be letting every stereotype win. And still, people wondered why I was always on edge. Always tired. Always distant. They thought the job was changing me. But the truth is, it was erasing me. They sell it like it's about honor. About bravery. But for women like me, it's about survival. Every day. Every deployment. Every shared meal with people who don't see you as a soldier, but as a challenge, a nuisance, or a target. You spend so long trying to prove that you belong, that you forget who you were before. You forget what it feels like to be seen without suspicion, without expectation, without judgment. And the worst part? When I finally came home, I couldn't explain any of it. My family asked me how it was. I said it was fine. Because how do you tell them that the hardest battles weren't the ones with guns or sandstorms, but the ones fought in silence, every hour, in uniform? They wouldn't understand. No one does. Because we're not the story they want to hear. They want medals. They want action. They want heroic sacrifice. Not the quiet ache of a woman who gave everything and still had to fight for the right to exist in the same space. That's why it sucks. Not because we're weak, but because we're never allowed to just be human.